Today we're addressing what I call the better version of you myth. You know, as parents, entrepreneurs, as people working in your corporate jobs 9 to 5, like we are constantly looking for that like self-development to better ourselves, become a better version. And I want to bust that myth wide open and show you how you become a better version of yourself. Like there's this myth behind that, but how you do it using the GIVER method as a part of that. Now, I used to think that becoming a better version of myself meant fixing everything that was wrong with me, and you may have felt the same sort of a way. Like, I don't know if you're like me, but I read a ton of books. I went to workshops. Like, I followed all the plans. I got different worksheets, whatever I could find or get my hands on. And you know, just trying to become more extroverted, put myself out there more disciplined, more organized, better with time management, whatever it is. I thought I could just fix my weaknesses. And I finally, I'd feel more confident. I'd seem more confident and successful and fulfilled. And people would look at me that way. But here's what actually happened. The harder that I tried to improve myself, better myself, the more exhausted I became, the more inadequate I started to feel. Like I was chasing this idea of a perfect version of me that just never seemed to arrive. It could never get here. And then something shifted for me. I realized the best version of myself wasn't somehow something new that I needed to create from scratch. Like the fullest version and the most honest version of who I already was, it was waiting to show up that moment, the very moment that I just stopped trying to fix myself and started developing exactly where I was at right now. Because what's happening is you are busy. You've got your checklist of things you have to do, your to-dos, your tasks, all the things as a parent and entrepreneur, someone working with. Our lives are busy, you know, and we need to have a way that we can do this to better ourselves and step into the new version of ourselves without having to recreate everything. And so today we're going to dive into how you become that better version of yourself using the GIVER method, not by adding any more to your plate, but by activating what's already inside you. Because becoming better, in that sort of a sense, the better idea isn't fixing flaws. It's about discovering and developing and then giving, your gifts and superpowers that you already have in the service of others. And so we're going to unpack that a lot today. Now, of course, I do like to say at the beginning of every video, and I forgot to, welcome to the GIVER Method channel. My name is Jake. If you're new here, if you're back for another video, welcome back. Glad to see you. Now, let me ask you something that might ground some of this for you, okay? Have you felt worn out from all the self-improvement work that just never seems to stick, or caught yourself thinking hey, everyone else seems to be growing and I just feel like I'm fighting the same battles? Or maybe you're trying, to be good at everything. You're trying to improve yourself in all those areas, but instead of feeling accomplished, you just feel really tired. And once again, there's so many of you out there. We can't help it being I know where you're coming from because I am a parent of 3. I'm an entrepreneur. I've been in that corporate space, so I totally get it. And let me tell you, you're not broken. You're not behind. You might just be stuck in the pattern that focuses on fixing what's wrong rather than amplifying what's right in your world. And the truth is, your gifts that make you exceptional, they are not missing. You are the only person with your combination of gifts, superpowers, and experiences, which means you are the only person who can make the impact in the world that you can make right now. And there are people waiting for you to realize that. Your gifts, they're hiding in plain sight. They're the things that you do so naturally that you don't even think about them because you don't think they're special. The parent who turns a moment, a really tough moment with their kid into a creative game, the entrepreneur who brings calm into the chaos, the employee who, quietly helps everyone and stays organized, right? That's your power. Now, you may have other ones. It may show up in other ways for you, but we all have them. And it's not stuff that you struggle to force yourself to do, but the things that just flow naturally. So we're dive deep into that. I should probably fully introduce myself because we're going to be talking a lot about the GIVER method. So my name is Jake Talbert. I'm the founder and the author of the book, The GIVER Method. Right now, you can get it for as little as $2 on Amazon. So I put a link in the description where you can go get it. I highly recommend you go get yourself a copy. Like I said, $2 to $10. It's the best $2 to $10 that you can invest in yourself. It's going to help you to discover your gifts and superpowers, create influence, more value for people, have better relationships, live a more fulfilled life. It is designed for people like you and me. It's designed for the parents, the entrepreneurs, the people who are working their 9 to 5s, kind of getting through the day. So I've made everything, all the stories, action items, exercises are designed to fit into your life so that you can build from where you are, not having to burn everything down or go move to the woods to find yourself. So use the link in the description, get yourself a copy, or just pause the video, open up Amazon and go get yourself, The GIVER Method by Jake Talbert. Get yourself a copy. And I know, like I said, I ground a lot of these things in my stories. So I know that I've lived this before. I tried to become more more confident, more disciplined, more social, and the turning point came when I just stopped, what's wrong with me that I need to fix something, and I just started asking, I stopped asking myself that. I started asking, hey, what's already, right with me? What can I build upon? And that changed everything because you start to discover your real gifts that are there. The things that maybe you've forgotten. I know mine were sleeping. I totally become like, numb to the world and felt like a shadow of myself. You may not be that far gone, but I promise you they're there. I found my things like, deep listening or simplifying the complexity, helping others see their potential. Like those were already things I was using to create value for others. I just wasn't giving them the attention that they deserved. And when I started to focus on developing them, especially through serving others, really listening, really encouraging, really helping, like I experienced more growth in that next 6 months than I had for like probably 6 to 10 years prior, like way more than me trying to fix myself, because growth happens naturally when you stop trying to perform. And I hate that performance mode that people get into, and you just start giving from your strength. So we're going to walk through like these 4 areas, 4 key spots and such that I think are going to help you to stop exhausting yourself and become, on that self-improvement treadmill that's out there, right? And really start becoming the person you were meant to be. And once again, like it's not about becoming the most well-rounded or mastering every skill. It's just realizing that becoming exceptional with your gifts creates far more value and more joy than trying to become the adequate at everything. And so everything's grounded, we talked about this, to be grounded in the GIVER method, because when you discover your natural gifts, you create value for others, you show up with that eager energy, you build relationship riches through service. Like you don't just help others, you become a person like that you were designed to be. So grab yourself a copy on Amazon or go to thegivermethod.com, check out the other ways we serve people, get on our newsletter list. Go find us on social media under the handle of the GIVER method. I got a link down below that you can check out as well. If you're ready for more personal guidance, you want someone to walk you through one-on-one coaching, through your gifts and how to build a plan around them, then check out the one-on-one coaching link below. Check out the video. If it makes sense to book a call, we could book a call. Now, if you have a podcast, an event, run a team, stage of some kind that like you feel like this message would resonate with, then let's talk about how we bring it to them in a really real and powerful way. Amazing results from the people that I've done speaking engagements for. And of course, please, if you haven't already, hit subscribe, ring that bell for notifications so you don't miss out on the stuff we have. Like the video so that shows me you're here, and comment your thoughts. What's your takeaway? Let me know what you're taking away from this. And with that, let's jump in. I want to cover these 4 areas real quick, because very tactical things that you can go do as a part of that, and just help you to really become this better version of yourself by giving from, the best of who you already are, what you already have with you. And so the first area is like, you just have to, you don't need to fix yourself to be that better version. So let's discover your gifts. You're walking past them every single day. So just the principle, I titled it as stop fixing and start finding. Because if we're real, most of us have been trained to look at what's wrong with us. Every book, every podcast, every productivity hack tells us you have to find your weakness and we have to go fix it. And so we spend years on feeling like we've got rough edges. We're chasing some mythical version of better that we think is out there. We look for the Instagram Reels version of things. But the truth is you can't see what's right in front of your eyes when you're so locked in on what's wrong. And it happens. I get it, because when you're in busy mode, overwhelm mode, survival mode, your brain is designed to not see those things. So the shift happens when you start asking what do I need to fix about myself? And you just start asking hey, what do I have right now? What do I naturally have that could actually help the people around me? And that's the heart of this idea of we're going to go into gift discovery, shift, how you're well, how do I take what I already have, start using it? Once again, not pretending that your weaknesses don't exist, because they do. We're always going to have them, but it's about putting energy where it multiplies rather than where it's draining you. And you think about it this way, there's tons of data and research out there, scientific backed stuff, that people grow 3 to 5 times faster when they build on what their strengths are than if they try to just fix a weakness that they have. And that's not theory. Once again, that's biology. That's how we're wired. Our brain is literally develops faster in the areas of your natural program, your natural wiring. So if you've been trying to force yourself into more discipline, more organization, more outgoing, but you keep feeling heavy about it, once again, it's not a failure. It's your body giving you feedback from its natural way that it does things. For exhausted parents, that might mean realizing, your creativity and humor, right? Not your patience, is what makes you the most amazing parent. For the burnt out entrepreneur, it might be rediscovering your vision and the ideas of the real engine of your business. It's not your ability to go crush it in sales, to hustle harder. For employees who maybe have been told to hey, you need to act like a leader or whatever, but remembering that the real gift might be clarity or problem solving. It's well, you already have leadership in action that you can start to put into motion if you just use it intentionally. And so there's a couple ways that you can do this. The first thing is you can do a natural energy audit where you pay attention to what energizes you, what drains you. Literally write it down. When are you feeling alive during the day? When do you lose track of time? When do you leave something feeling like more filled than when you started? Those are clues. Then look at the patterns. Like if you write these things down and you look at the patterns for those moments, like you're gonna start thinking like, man, I really am good at explaining things clearly. I encourage people a lot. I fix the problems that others couldn't. Like, man, I'm creating a lot of order in the chaos. Like there's all sorts of things it could be. Like I said, the Giver Method book dives really deep into what these types of things could be. Then after you start to develop that, like notice what people are thanking you for. What are those compliments that you've probably been pushing off as like, oh, that's nothing. Like, oh, anyone could do this. That's often your gifts like talking. If 3 people have told you that you're great at, calming things down, that's not a coincidence. That's your wiring in action. So look for what those are. And then finally, go ask some people that Go ask friends, family, people who are close to you. Hey, when have you seen me at my best? And you're gonna be surprised what they say. Most of the time, like our gifts are hiding in plain sight. We've labeled them as normal. Go to those people and say like, hey, if someone came to you with a problem, and they were like, hey, who do you know? Like, do you know anyone who could help me? And you said, yeah, Jake could help you. Like, what would you say? Why me? And you're going to discover those gifts and things. Like, because once again, you can't develop anything you don't recognize. You have to develop, you have to discover, you have to develop, and then you deliver your gifts and superpowers. So like, you can't develop if you don't recognize, if you don't discover it. When you stop scanning for your flaws, start noticing what you already have working, it changes. You go from trying to force change into flowing with it. You don't have to be the most well-rounded person. Just become exceptional at the things that you already help you come alive. And you operate from that place. My gosh, like from your gifts, your growth becomes so much more energizing. It feels like expression, like freedom. The Giver Method, you start becoming a giver at that point, not just trying to fix things, but you're finding the ways that you can make that impact. That takes us into the second area, all right? You put your energy where it actually works. So I call this, and I can't remember where I got it from originally, so I took it from somebody, but I loved it so much. It was the 80-20 shift. Put your energy where it actually matters, the 80-20 shift. Because most of us become, like, we've been told that we're better because we have to go fix the thing we're bad at, be more organized, more time management, more outgoing, more disciplined, more everything. And what happens is we spend 80% of our time fighting uphill battles in the area that we, like, never love and burn us out, and only 20% on the things that actually make us come alive. No wonder you feel exhausted or burnt out or feeling anxiety. And so that's why we reframe it. That's why we want to flip the ratio where we spend 80% of our time, on the growth energy, amplifying our gifts, and only 20% on like managing your weaknesses. That's it. It's not about ignoring flaws. Once again, they're going to be there, but it's about putting effort where it actually multiplies instead of barely moves the needle. When you operate in this way, everything will click. You start to create value like just effortlessly because you're doing what you're just naturally wired to do. Creative parents, lean into their imagination instead of like just discipline, like to become the parent that their kids light up around. The visionary who stops forcing himself into spreadsheets and instead like spends time developing big picture thinking, like starts to attract people who want his help. They want to execute that vision. Analytical employees like who double down on solving complex problems become the go-to person that everyone trusts. Like, once again, you don't need to be the most well-rounded jack of all trades. You just need to become well-rooted in what you already have working for you. So here's what you start by committing to that 80-20 split. If you have 5 hours a week that you could spend on your personal growth, 5 minutes, 5 5 days that you'd want to take, however much time, it doesn't matter what the time frame is, but you're going to dedicate, if let's say that's 5 hours because it's a easy number to use, then you're going to spend 4 of those hours on like strengthening your gifts and just managing one real obstacle that gets in the way. 80% of it goes to what like makes you come alive, and you stretch it. You take your gifts into new environments. How could I use this in different places? I've been doing this at home. How do I do that at work? Or I do that at work. How could I bring that into my home? If you're great at teaching, teach something harder or something to a new audience. If you're a problem solver, volunteer for, the challenges that actually stretch your thinking. Go study it. Find someone who uses a similar gift at a higher level. Like, watch what they're doing. Learn their rhythm and style. Not just copy them, but just like redefine it to be your own. And then practice it. Don't wait for opportunities to create themselves. Like, use your gifts every day on purpose. The parent, giving encouragement, using that gift. Make it a goal to catch your kid doing something right every single day that matters. The employee, with the gift of clarity, that means like every meeting, you're trying to find the one sentence that summarizes what's next and does that. Like, then Use the remaining 20% wisely. Don't waste your time on perfecting your weaknesses. Don't just block your gifts out. Only work on the stuff that truly slows you down. If you can delegate it, gosh, delegate the heck out of it. Summarize it. Use tools, processes, partner up with somebody, use collaboration, learn just enough to get to a functional level, then stop. For example, if you're an introverted leader, you don't need to become a motivational speaker. You just need to be able to clearly share your ideas with your team so that they can take action. After that, get back to what you do best, thinking deeply, leading thoughtfully, being the person that your clients need. Because where your energy goes determines whether or not you feel burnout or if you're feeling momentum. And if you've ever felt that, or if you feel that you've been in burnout or survival mode, overwhelm, anxiety, like anything like that, it's probably because of where you're putting that energy. And when you spend most of your time just fixing things, trying to fix your weaknesses, fix other things for people, you're constantly operating outside your natural wiring. It's like trying to drive with the parking brake on in your car. But when you focus that exact same energy on developing your gifts, giving them to other people in a way to develop them, you slip into the flow, you grow faster, you feel more alive. Once again, it's not about becoming everything to everyone. It's about becoming exceptional at the few things that make you you. That's what people need. So stop trying to balance your way to greatness. The world doesn't need another well-rounded person. They need you, the fully alive, the one doing what you do, the one that has your combination of gifts, superpowers, and experiences that only you can make the impact with. Now, the third area I want to focus on is I call it the shortcut that nobody talks about, and it's the grow by giving. And I've hinted at it. I've been holding back on it, as much as I could. But I mean, it's one of the core things behind the GIVER method. Because we've told that personal growth, it starts with you. You got to fix yourself, improve yourself, focus on yourself. But to me, that's backwards. Because what I've learned is that real growth doesn't happen by when you're staring at your own reflection trying to get better. It happens when you forget yourself for a minute and you use your gifts, you use your superpowers, use the things you already have to help someone else. You grow through giving because when you use your gifts, your superpowers to serve others without keeping score, without expecting anything in return, without worrying about being perfect, you end up developing faster than any book or course or workshop could ever teach you. It's not just an idea. There's tons of science and studies out there that back this up, that show that when you give to others, your brain lights up the same reward centers, the same oxytocin and dopamines and everything as when you're experiencing joy and success. That's why they call it the helper's high. It's your natural way of saying hey, you're doing what you're designed to do. Those dopamine, those oxytocin, the deep sense of meaning, not a to-do or task list that just, eats away at you. The very thing that fills you up, fills you up, is going to fill others up. It's going to refuel everyone around. And that's not a coincidence. It's by design. And so what I want you to try, this next one I've been covering in a couple of videos, and I'm hoping people start doing it, is that they do I call it the 30-day gift challenge, where you're going to pick one of your natural gifts. Something that's easy, that comes so naturally that you can actually help people with, and use it intentionally to serve someone every single day for the next 30 days. Once again, there's no pressure, no perfection, no overthinking, just small, simple acts that you could use to make someone else's day a little bit better. Every day, jot down a few things okay, well, if I think back, what did I do? And be as specific as possible. Maybe you used your gift of clarity to help a coworker organize a project. Maybe you use your gift of encouragement. You helped your kid bounce back after a hard day, whatever. Write down what it is. Today I use this one, and it's best if you do this, set the intention in the morning, which we'll talk more about. But what was it? What'd you do? Be very specific. What changed for them? Did they seem relieved? Did they seem clearer, more confident, more engaged, whatever? And then what did it do for you? It left you feeling energized. It felt you drained. You felt more authentic. You felt forced. You felt like you were performing just for the sake of performing. Just do that for 30 days. By the end of 30 days, you're going to see all sorts of patterns. You'll probably notice it after the first 7 even. But you'll start to notice that you skills getting sharper. You'll see confidence replacing hesitation. You'll see, you'll realize impact is spreading because people start seeking you out for that gift. And yet that's how it works. The more you give away, the more it grows. The universe pays you back when you take your natural gifts and superpowers and give them without expecting anything in return. For example, an entrepreneur that I worked with, stopped signing up for business courses and everything. Instead, just started using their gifts for strategy to mentor a few other founders, entrepreneurs, stuff like that. 30 days later, he not only had helped them grow their businesses, but he refined his own thinking. He had more confidence in what he was doing. He felt more purpose than he had in years, and his business was growing as a part of that. That's what giving does. It grows you, because it flips the old like self-improvement story on its head. Like, you don't wait until you're good enough to make a difference. You be like, hey, I become good enough by making the difference. I'm gonna go do it. I'm gonna take action. The map appears when you're in motion, so start moving. The more you use your gifts in service of others, the more you're gonna evolve. You gain skills through that practice, confidence. You have proof and purpose. You've all these receipts of how they showed up and how you've got to return. The best part is you stop chasing your growth like it's something outside of you and realize it's already there and what you're already doing. So if you've been waiting for the perfect time to grow, like, this is it. Pick one gift today, use it. Give without keeping score, and watch how fast you become the version of yourself that you've been chasing for years. I said that's how I was in that story I told at the beginning of the video. And the fourth area I want to cover, okay? You actually redefine who you are. You go from fixing to owning your gifts. So you're actually going to write your own identity, like, transformation statement. Because how you see yourself changes everything. How we talk about ourselves makes such a massive impact. It shapes like the choices you make, how you show up, and what you believe is even possible. But most people define themselves by what they lack. You're going to think things or even say things like, hey, I'm just not a confident person. I'm not confident enough, not patient enough. I'm not good with people. I don't have that skill. I'm not the type of person who, if that sounds familiar, like the kind of like self-talk that keeps you trapped in that constant game of catch-up. Like, why you're always trying to fix things, why you never feel enough, why you feel burnout, overwhelm, anxiety, why everything that you need to go do to improve yourself feels like a mountain that it's probably just a molehill. But what if you just stop defining yourself by those flaws? Stop saying those words, stop thinking them. Like, you're doing so much damage by doing that. What if you just start defining yourself by your gifts? And so that's what this is about. It's about moving from that, like, hey, what I need to fix, to what I naturally offer sort of a thought. Once again, I'm not talking about faking confidence or pretending like your weaknesses don't exist. Like, it's about accurately naming who you are when you operate within your zone of strength and genius and your gifts and superpowers. The version of you that feels the most natural, authentic, and alive. And when you start identifying yourself by those gifts instead of by the roles or your flaws, everything shifts. You stop trying to be someone else's better version and just start showing up as a version of you that's been there all along, just waiting to be recognized. And so here's the really simple exercise, that genuinely can change how you see yourself, how you talk about yourself. You're going to write out 5 I'm someone who statements, but make sure that you describe your gifts in action, not your title, not your goals, and definitely not what you're trying to fix. The old version of what you might say might be like, I'm a manager, I need to be more patient, I'm working on being better with people. And the new way, the gift-focused way of thinking is like, hey, I'm someone who helps people see possibilities they couldn't see before. I'm someone who makes complex things simple. I'm someone who encourages people to believe in themselves. I'm someone who brings calm into chaos. I'm someone who connects people who need each other. Like, and whatever you write out, whatever yours are, read them every morning for like the next 2 weeks. Not as like a cheesy affirmation, but you're not trying to convince yourself of it, but as reminders of who you already are when you're at your best. And watch what happens. You're going to notice opportunities that you used to overlook, moments where your gifts could make a difference. They just start to show up because they're noticing them. You're being more intentional with them. Decisions become easier when you stop asking like, which path lets me use my gifts, instead of like, how am I going to fix this? Or how do I avoid my weaknesses? Like, it's like, nope, where can I use my gifts? And you'll be more energized because you're living in alignment with rather than trying to live in this path of self-correction, and the confidence that comes from that. It's not the kind that you have to like hype yourself up for. It's quiet, it's grounded, it's real. Overwhelmed parent, that might sound like, hey, I'm someone who turns challenges into creative adventures. I'm someone who brings play into laughter during those hard moments. Once again, those words that you say, they remind yourself like the power that you have. It's not because you're perfect or calm or the most structured parent that the internet will talk about. It's because you're using your gifts to love your family in the way that only you can. Because here's the thing that matters. Like this becomes like who you believe you are and what you say about yourself matter. The story of like, I'm someone with a lot of weaknesses I need to fix. Like, you spend our lives chasing validation and trying to fix things, but if you flip the story to, I'm a person who uses gifts to make a difference, every single day, and I make a difference when I give them away naturally. You grow naturally through that. You get more confident, more purpose, more fulfillment, like lasting change that starts with your identity. When you redefine like who you are, like around your gifts, You stop fighting yourself, you start flowing with where you've been all along. And you're gonna like stop seeing this list of flaws to go correct and start seeing this massive collection of gifts that you can develop and share. Discover, develop, deliver. Start to share them out with people. You know, that's where growth finally sticks, because like it's coming from who you really are, not from what you're trying to be. And so as we wrap all these data points, these strategies up, like, you know, we started by covering some simple truths about the better version of yourself isn't about fixing what's wrong with you, but discovering and developing, delivering, like giving your gifts that you already have. They're just waiting to be used. The person that you've been trying to become through these years of self-improvement books or podcasts or plans, like, you don't have to go build that person from scratch. They've been underneath all the pressure and comparison and perfectionism, just waiting for you to stop trying to fix things long enough and just use what's already working inside of you. And the cool part is, like, the data, the science, all the research out there that backs this up, that people who focus on their strengths, that they feel more alive, they perform better, and they stay engaged longer. You know, when they're giving their strengths away, it lights your brain up in ways that, you know, self-help can't. It literally makes you happier and more motivated to keep growing. So my challenge to you is, like, just pick one thing we talked about today. It could be a energy audit over the next couple of days. It could be those 5 I'm someone who statements. It could be the 30-day gift challenge. I'd love to hear someone that starts implementing that and what they take from it. You know, if you're ready to go deeper, once again, that's where you'll get yourself a copy of the GIVER method on Amazon, because it's full of tools that are designed to help you. It's, you know, get you to find your gifts and actually live with them. So the link's in the description, or go to Amazon. Just look up the GIVER method by Jake Talbert. Like that's where it starts. Also, the coaching program, our free resources. So like thegivermethod.com has tons of resources. You can check out the coaching details below about our one-on-one program. If you have a team, a podcast, an event, a stage of some kind that this message would resonate with, let's connect. I'd love to bring it to your community in a very real way that they could start implementing right away. You know, and of course, like, if you haven't already, liked this video, you know, if something clicked for you today, if you saw your gifts that maybe you're overlooking, like, drop a comment. I'd love to hear what that is, because I read them. But like I said, do all the YouTubey things, like the video, subscribe, ring that bell for notifications. You know, we share videos all the time, so would love to get them in front of you. And at the same time, maybe share this with someone else that you feel needs it. You know, someone else needs to hear it. Share it with them. You know, and all I have to say is, like, thing to take away is start somewhere. Just start today, because the people around you, your friends, your family, your team, like, they don't need a better version of you. They need the real, authentic you, who you already are, the one who gives and grows and shines through the gifts that you already have. You are the only person that has your combination of gifts, superpowers, and experiences, which means you are the only person who can make the impact that you can make in their lives right now, and they are waiting for it. I promise you that. And when you do that and you give without expecting things in return, the universe will always pay you back. You'll have opportunities show up. You'll have more joy, more delight, more fulfillment. You'll be more motivated and have more energy. All of those things, I promise, they come when you start doing those things. And so that's the end of this one. Check out the other videos on the channel. There's all sorts of things that could help you along the way. Make sure, of course, hopefully catch us in our next video. And you have yourself a great rest of your day. Have a good one.